There is a guy who rides 30,000 miles a year on the same bike. Rain, snow, summer heat, mountain passes, interstate slabs. His bike is not clean, it is not babied, and it is not special. It is a 2015 with 98,000 miles on the original bottom end. Original clutch, original transmission. No rebuilds, no catastrophic failures, just regular maintenance and discipline. Most riders think that is luck or some kind of mechanical genius. It is neither. It is 15 habits you probably don't have. Habits that separate the 100,000-mile club from the trade-in crowd who are shopping for their third bike, because the first two did not make it past 40,000 miles. Here is the brutal truth. You are killing your engine with shortcuts that seem harmless until you are staring at a rebuild quote. The math is simple. Follow these habits and your bike outlasts your loan. Ignore them and you are looking at catastrophic failure before you hit 50,000 miles. Let us count down from 15 to the single most critical habit that separates the 100,000-mile club from rebuild customers. Secret number 15, the blueprint mindset. This is where everything starts, and it is the reason most riders never make it past 50,000 miles. The difference between riders who hit 100,000 miles and riders who do not is not luck. It is not even mechanical skill. It is systems-based thinking versus reactive fixing. Most riders operate on the fix-it when it breaks mentality. Something makes a noise, they ignore it. Something leaks, they top it off. Something feels weird, they ride through it. Then, one day, the bike will not start. Or worse, it grenades on the highway. That is reactive fixing, and it is the most expensive way to own a motorcycle. The blueprint mindset is different. It is about inspection triggers tied to routine moments. Every third fill-up, you check chain tension, tire pressure, and look for leaks. Every wash, you inspect bolts, cables, and battery terminals. Every oil change, you check electrical connections and bearing play. Your system is a checklist tied to moments you are already doing. The notebook is just proof you are consistent. Why does this matter? Because patterns emerge. You start noticing that your oil consumption ticks up slightly every 5,000 miles. That is not a crisis yet, but it tells you something about ring wear or valve guides. You catch it early, you adjust your maintenance schedule, you ignore it, and you're looking at a top-end rebuild. Let me walk you through the catastrophic failure cycle that kills most bikes. It starts with ignoring a small issue. Maybe it is a slight oil leak from the primary cover. No big deal, right? Just top it off every few weeks. But that leak gets worse. Now you are losing oil faster. The primary chain starts running dry. A dry chain means metal on metal contact. That contamination gets into your clutch. Now your clutch is slipping. You ignore that too because it is still rideable. Then, one day the whole back end needs a rebuild. Primary chain, clutch plates, bearings, seals. You're looking at $3,000 minimum, and that is if nothing else got damaged in the process. That is the cycle. Ignore, major break, collateral damage, massive bill, sell the bike. I have watched this happen dozens of times. The rider who could have spent $40 on a gasket and an hour in the garage ends up with a parts bike in the driveway. Here is the cost comparison that should terrify you. Preventive maintenance on a big American V-twin runs about $300 a year for fluids, filters, and basic parts. That covers oil changes, brake fluid, coolant, primary oil, and an air filter. The average catastrophic failure repair is $3,000 minimum. Often, no. You are talking 10 years of prevention versus one major failure. Real American example, primary chain neglect. The manual says Inspect every 5,000 miles, but most riders never pop that cover. The chain runs dry and starts wearing the case. Metal shavings contaminate the oil. Those shavings get into the clutch pack. The clutch starts slipping. The added friction overheats everything, and now you need an entire back-end rebuild. All because nobody checked the primary oil level. The blueprint mindset prevents this. You track, you inspect, you catch problems when they are cheap. The mindset means nothing without mechanical discipline. But without the mindset, the mechanical work never happens. Secret number 14, the death wobble inspection. If you have ever felt your handlebars shake at highway speed, you know the fear. But most riders do not know what causes it, and that ignorance kills bikes and riders. Neck bearings and swing arm bushings are the two connection points that hold your entire chassis together. On a long-haul bike with 60,000 miles, these wear out. The problem is they wear slowly, so you do not notice until it is dangerous. Loose neck bearings create that wobble. Worn swing arm bushings let the rear end move independently from the frame. Both conditions destroy your ability to control the bike at speed. Here's the test. Nobody does. With the front wheel off the ground, grab the forks and push and pull. Any play means your neck bearings are toast. For the swing arm, grab the rear wheel and try to move it side to side. Any movement that is not just chain slack means your bushings are gone. These are $200 parts that cost $2,000 to fix after they have destroyed your frame or caused a crash. Secret number 13, the forgotten lube points. Cables, throttle, clutch, brake. They are steel wires running through steel housings, and most riders never lubricate them. Dry cables create a cascade of safety issues most people never connect. A dry throttle cable causes a sticky return. That is a runaway throttle waiting to happen. A dry clutch cable causes inconsistent engagement. You are fighting the lever, which means you are not focusing on the road. A dry brake cable on older bikes causes delayed response. That extra quarter second could be the difference between stopping and hitting something. The real problem is one dry cable leads to 3 other problems. Sticky throttle makes you rev higher than intended, burning more fuel and creating more heat. Inconsistent clutch makes you slip it more, wearing plates faster. Delayed brakes make you grab harder, wearing pads unevenly. It is a $5 can of cable lube versus hundreds in repairs and potential crashes. Secret number 12, battery cable corrosion. This is the invisible killer of electrical systems. You cannot see it because it happens inside the cable terminals, but it is creating resistance that is frying your ECU and the voltage regulator. Here's how it works. Corrosion builds up where the cable meets the terminal. That resistance creates heat. Heat creates more corrosion. More corrosion creates more resistance. Your charging system is now working overtime trying to push current through that resistance. Your voltage regulator overheats trying to compensate. Your ECU gets voltage spikes it was not designed to handle. Both components fail, and you are looking at $800 in parts alone. The fix is brutal in its simplicity. Disconnect the battery cables, clean the terminals with a wire brush, apply dielectric grease, and reconnect. 10 minutes, twice a year. But nobody does it until their bike will not start. Secret number 11, the electrical load limit. Every American V-twin has a stator rated for a specific amperage. When you start adding heated grips, auxiliary lights, phone chargers, and GPS units by tapping into the main harness, you are exceeding that limit. The stator tries to keep up. It runs hotter. The windings start to break down. Then one day it just quits, and you are stranded. Stator replacement on most American bikes costs $800 to $1,200 in parts and labor. All because someone wanted heated grips. Secret number 10, chain tension reality. Too loose and it slaps, wearing the swing arm and guides. But too tight is worse. A tight chain puts constant load on your output shaft bearing. That bearing was not designed for constant tension. It was designed for the natural flex of a properly adjusted chain. A tight chain destroys that bearing in 15,000 miles instead of 60,000 miles. Output shaft bearing failure means splitting the cases. You're looking at $2,000 minimum. One dry cable leads to 3 other problems, which lead to expensive failures. The pattern is always the same: small neglect, cascade effect, catastrophic cost. Mechanical connections fail fast, but fluids kill slowly. Secret number 9, contamination control. This isn't about one fluid or one filter. It is about understanding that your engine is constantly trying to poison itself, and most riders are letting it happen. Here's the chain reaction. You buy a cheap oil filter to save $6. That filter uses cheaper media, so it lets microscopic metal particles through that an original equipment manufacturer filter would catch. Those particles are shavings from normal engine wear. They are tiny, but they are abrasive. They circulate through your oil passages and start grinding away at bearing surfaces. Your main bearings, rod bearings, cam bearings, they are all getting sandblasted by contaminated oil. The bearing wear is slow enough that you do not notice until it is catastrophic. By the time you hear the knock, the damage is done. You end up splitting cases, replacing bearings, possibly replacing the crank if the journals are scored. That is a $4,000 job minimum on most American V-twins, all because someone saved $6 on a filter. But it gets worse when you combine that with short trip riding. 10-minute rides are destroying your engine in a way most riders never understand. Cold starts create condensation inside the engine. That moisture mixes with combustion byproducts to create acidic sludge. If you never get the engine fully hot, and I mean 20 minutes of riding minimum, that sludge never evaporates. It just accumulates in your oil passages and around your valve train. That sludge clogs passages, accelerates bearing wear, and corrodes internal surfaces. Engines that see nothing but short trips die at 30,000 miles. Engines that see regular highway runs make it to 100,000 miles. The contamination from cheap filters plus short trip sludge is a death sentence. Secret number 8, primary chain oil. This is American specific because most American V-twin motorcycles have a separate primary drive. The manual says lifetime fill, and riders take that literally. Lifetime fill is a lie. Primary oil breaks down from heat and friction just like engine oil. The difference is there is no filter in the primary. All those metal particles from chain wear just circulate, and that contaminated oil stops lubricating effectively. The chain runs dry, and metal-on-metal contact accelerates wear. The clutch starts slipping because it is bathing in metallic soup. Change your primary oil every 10,000 miles. It is a 20-minute job that costs $15 in fluid. Skip it, and you'll be rebuilding the entire primary system at 40,000 miles instead of making it to 100,000 miles. Secret number 7, brake fluid death spiral. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture from the air. That moisture lowers the boiling point and corrodes internal components. On bikes with ABS, that corrosion destroys the ABS module. You're looking at $1,000 to $1,500 for module replacement. Most riders never change brake fluid. The manual says every 2 years, but nobody does it. The fluid turns dark brown. The moisture content climbs. Then one day you are on a mountain descent using the brakes hard, and the fluid boils. Your lever goes to the bar. Or worse, the ABS module corrodes internally and fails completely. Change the fluid every 2 years. $30 in fluid. 15 minutes per caliper. Do it or pay $1,000 for the module. Secret number 6, the coolant chemistry reality. The manual says change coolant every 2 years, but that is not the real interval. Coolant does not go bad on a calendar. It goes bad when the pH shifts. When coolant becomes acidic, it eats aluminum. Your heads and cylinders and the radiator are all made of aluminum on modern bikes. The pH shift happens when combustion gases contaminate the coolant through microscopic head gasket leaks. Bad coolant leads to pinhole leaks in the radiator. Those leaks let coolant into the combustion chamber. That damages the head gasket. Now you have a full head gasket failure. Fluids rot the engine from inside, but temperature destroys it from outside. Secret number 5, air-cooled traffic discipline. If you ride an air-cooled V-twin in traffic, you need to understand what is happening to your engine. These motors can hit 250 degrees Fahrenheit sitting at a stoplight. That's hot enough to cook oil, warp heads, and destroy gaskets. Most riders just sit there, engine idling, heat climbing, oil breaking down. The problem is, modern synthetic oils are rated to 300 degrees Fahrenheit, but that rating assumes flowing oil under pressure. Sitting still, that oil is not flowing. It is cooking in the sump and around the cylinders. The fix is parade mode discipline. When you are stuck in traffic and the temperature climbs past 220 degrees Fahrenheit, you have 2 choices: shut it down or keep moving. Shut it down and let it cool for 5 minutes. Or lane split where legal. Move toward the front. Do whatever it takes to keep air moving across those fins. Heat kills air-cooled motors faster than anything else. Secret number 4, the RPM truth. Everyone thinks high RPM kills engines. The opposite is true. Lugging at low RPM destroys bearings faster than revving ever will. When you are putting along at 2000 RPM in top gear, oil pressure is low and load is high. Your bearings are trying to support combustion pressure with minimal oil film. That is metal-on-metal contact. That is bearing wear. Over time, that wear becomes bearing failure. Proper RPM keeps oil pressure up and distributes load across the entire bearing surface. Most American V-twins are happiest between 2,500 and 4,000 RPM. Stay in that range, and your bearings will outlast the rest of the bike. Secret number 3, the shutdown ritual. When you kill the ignition after a hard ride, your engine is heat-soaked. Combustion stops, but the metal is still radiating heat. That residual heat cooks the oil that is sitting in the heads and around the cylinders. That oil breaks down, forms deposits, and clogs passages. The ritual is simple. Before shutdown, idle for 1 minute. Let the oil circulate and carry heat away from the hottest components. Let the cooling system equalize temperatures. Then kill the ignition. That 1 minute prevents more oil breakdown than anything else you will do. Secret number 2, the handshake warm-up. This is the most critical thermal habit. Oil is thick and flow is slower when cold. The highest wear phase is the first minute after startup. Your bearings are operating with reduced lubrication during that critical window. Start the engine and give it 20 to 60 seconds to stabilize. Wait for idle to settle, then roll out gently. Avoid hard throttle until the temperature needle moves or idle drops to normal. You are not waiting forever, just long enough for oil to thin out and start flowing properly. Skip this and your engine dies at 30,000 miles. Do this religiously and you will hit 100,000 miles. Temperature mismanagement is the #1 killer of high mileage engines. Secret number 1, oil change discipline, not mileage, but conditions. Most riders treat oil changes like a calendar event every 5,000 miles, no matter how the bike is ridden. That logic kills engines. A bike that sees short trips, traffic heat, and cold starts contaminates its oil far faster than a bike that runs highway miles. Fuel dilution, moisture, and acids build up long before the mileage interval is reached. High mileage riders change oil based on how the bike is used, not what the manual says. Short trips, Heavy heat, stop-and-go traffic? Cut the interval in half. Clean oil is the single biggest factor in bearing survival, cam life, and piston ring health. Skip this discipline and contamination compound silently. Follow it and your bottom end lives long enough to make everything else matter. If you remember one thing, the warm-up habit prevents more catastrophic damage than anything else. These are not secrets. They are standards most riders do not have. Pick 3 habits and start this week. Drop a comment. Which of these have you been ignoring? Welcome to the 100,000 Mile Club. This is how bikes survive.